everybody, and welcome to OG Searcher and another one of my videos about coins and numismatics in general. And as some of you know, I just finished up with a pretty large show, the Georgia State Numismatic Association show in Dalton, Georgia, and had a very good show. A lot of people attended, even though the weather didn't want to cooperate. We had thunderstorms in the area both Friday and Saturday, and I think that cut down a little bit on the crowd. But the ones that were there had a good time. They were in the mood to spend money and did. So I enjoyed myself completely. But it got me thinking about a segment that might be good for the channel, and that is maybe the do's and don'ts of going to a show. And I'm going to talk both about as a customer and also as about a dealer setting up at shows. Um, some of you may be a little bit leery about going to a show because you don't know what it's like, how you're supposed to act, what you are allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So I want to talk a little bit about some of that and what I have seen over the years, and some tips maybe about what you should do and what you shouldn't do when you are attending a coin show. Just to let you also know little tidbits too, most coin shows do not charge admission to get into. There are a few that I have done that the facility does charge a small fee for parking. That's how they make money. Most of the coin shows, they get their revenue from the dealers, so the dealers are putting the bill for that particular event. Keep that in mind when you're thinking about pricing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But so don't be afraid about going to a show. If you want to get your feet wet, maybe try a little smaller show. Most areas have monthly shows that are usually small in nature. They have somewhere between 15 and 40 dealers at, and you can kind of go and get your feet wet a little bit and, see what it's all about before you go to one of the big ones. And you walk in the door and you see 200 to 400 dealers set up, and you're going, my God, what do I do next? Where do I start? So that's one tip that I would give you. But let's talk about some things that you should do and what you shouldn't do as a buying customer or a selling customer going to a coin show. First thing is be patient. Um, you got to understand that there are a lot of people at these shows that are trying to do the exact same thing that you are. A dealer is there, and he's got to have his head on a swivel. He's got to, worrying about security, waiting on customers, just the things in general about conducting business there. And he might not have, the time to get to you immediately. Problem with a lot of people in our country is that we want things right now. When we rightly feel we are important, and yes, you are, but the person that the dealer is dealing with at the moment, they think that that's the same thing too, and so just have some common courtesy, and that'll go a long way at a show. Um, Next thing is don't be afraid to ask questions, but not too many. You got to remember that dealers there, yes, they like to share their knowledge. A lot of them do. Now, some of them don't. I'll be flat honest with you. But don't, keep in mind that the dealer is there to make money. I mean, this is how I make my living at a coin show. Um, so, yes, I love to answer questions, and that's one of the reasons that I'm doing these videos. But I only got time to answer so many. don't be sitting there trying to get my 40 years of knowledge in 2 hours from me while I'm trying to wait on other customers. I may have patience for one or two questions, but when you get to about 5 to 10 to 15, I might start, yeah, I don't have time to do that right now. So, just keep, again, just be polite and conscious of what's going on, and, that'll go a long way. Next thing is, don't be afraid to ask the dealer, if you don't see exactly what you're looking for in the dealer's display, ask the dealer if he happens to have, what you are looking for. It's like, we've got a very limited display area. We can only get so many coins on our or inside of our showcases on our tables. Most shows have 8-foot tables. I do some shows that only have 6-foot tables. I can get 4 showcases on a 8-foot table and only 3 on a 6-foot, and you can get a lot of coins in those showcases. Um, so I have backup boxes, on my backup table, and what exactly you might be looking for, I might have on my backup table. I've been known to pull a rabbit or two out of my hat when asked. So don't be afraid to ask, a dealer if he happens to have, what you don't see in his display, because sometimes they have it. And remember, they're there to try to sell coins. And so, yeah, they want to sell those ones that they brought, from home that are on their backup table too. So please ask them if you don't see what you're looking for. Um, Also, don't be afraid to ask for a discount. Now, I'll tell you, flat out that most of my pricing that I have for my stuff, I have priced at net pricing. I tend to wholesale most of my material at shows, and so I've already got my bottom line price on my coins and currency that I have on display. But a lot of dealers have their prices set to where they can give a discount, and normally they'll give a bigger discount the more that you buy. So if you're buying only one coin, their discount might be 5 to 10%, and you buy, 20 or 30 coins, or dollar amount gets bigger, they may increase their discount. So don't be afraid to ask. But if a dealer tells you that that's their best price, don't try to counter, with something below that, because I know when you ask me my best price and I tell you what it is, and then you say, well, will you take this instead? I tend to kind of look at, what are you doing? Thinking I lied to you when you asked me for my best price? That's what's going through my brain when you counter when I've already given you my best price. So again, take that in consideration. If my best price isn't what you want to pay, just thank me for it and go to the next table. You might find it there. Um, but let's talk about some things that I would advise you not to do. And a lot of this has to do with just security. Um, we are very vulnerable to theft at these shows. So a lot of the things that we, ask, the customers to do and not to do has a lot to do with experiences we've had with thieves at these shows. So don't get offended if you forget and happen to do one of these things and we asked you not to do it. Um, so that's why. The first thing is do not take coins that you're looking at below the level of the table. You want to keep your hands above the table, keep the materials um, in plain view. And you might say, well, that's not, you know, hard to understand why. Well, it was a show not too long ago that a guy, was back away from the table. I'm going to try to pan down a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But he was taking the coins and looking at them, kind of in his lap like this. And, he was reaching up to the box and then going down like this. And I asked the gentleman, not to do that. And he got plumb offended, with me, because he thought I was accusing him of stealing. Well, I wasn't accusing you of stealing, but that's very suspicious activity. And I'll tell you why. I was at a show not too long ago where a gentleman had one of those shopping bags between his legs, in front of his chair. And he was taking coins and he was taking them below the table and he was dropping one or two into the shopping bag. So, when you take the coins out of sight, out of my visual range, it makes me very suspicious about what you may or may not be doing with those coins. So, as a common courtesy, and all dealers are going to be expecting this, you want to keep your hands and the coins above the table. Next thing, kind of like that, on talking about tables, do not, a lot of times you'll be carrying bags, books, reference books, cell phones, um, other material that you bought, double roll boxes. I've seen it all. If a dealer has an area on his table, that's kind of empty, it's like I do, is I put double roll boxes on my table for people to go through, and I have, an area on my table set up for that to where there's some space, that don't have showcases on it. And that's okay if you want to set your, price guide there, your want list, maybe some things that, you have already bought there. Just don't get too crazy with it. But do not, if you've got your book and you've got a dealer, that has a showcase, sitting on the table, do not put your stuff on top of that showcase. Now, I've literally had people looking at boxes with coins in it that, everything's priced under $25 and they're covering up a showcase that I've got full of gold with all their reference guides and things like that. And that's not good ethics to do that, at a show, because, remember that show, I pay a lot of money for that display area and I want to have my stuff to be able to display. And if you're covering it up with your books, then somebody else walking by can't see what I've got on display. So again, common courtesy, don't do that. Never, and let's talk about showcases too. Again, you might think, well, nobody would ever do that, but yes, they've done it. Never ever reach into a dealer showcase without them giving you permission to do so. I've actually had people, you know, lift the glass lid or, door on my showcase and reach in and grab a coin. And that is a strict no-no. Never, 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 ever do that. Now, there's been times when I've lifted the case up and they want to look at a coin that's it's closer to them than it is to me, and I'll tell them, go ahead and grab it, and I'll put the lid down. But I'm sitting there watching them do that, and I know they've got it out. So that's okay. Again, I've given them permission to do that. But don't take it upon yourself to lift that lid off of that showcase and reach in there and grab a coin that you want to look at. I've had people do that with my back turned to them. Most of the time, I'll keep the showcases locked, but if I might get busy and I'm going into a case multiple times while I'm standing there, I may not lock it back every time. So again, just don't do that. This is another one that I've had happen numerous times at a show. Had it happen in my shop before. Do not get involved in the transaction between a dealer and another person. And you might say, well, I might have something important to say. It's none of your business what I'm doing with that customer. Yeah, you can listen. You might learn something. But this is things that I've had happen. Um, I've, I've be looking at a coin that, or something that the person is wanting to sell me. And the person that's sitting there next to them. He's looking at it or she's looking at it, and I make an offer, to buy it, and they popped up and say, "Well, I'll pay more than that." Well, yeah, you probably could. You're a retail buyer. I'm buying this to resell. I'm going to have more cost in that coin than just what I pay for it. Not only do I have my time in it, but a portion of what I pay to set up at this show also goes into it. I also need to make a profit. This is how I pay my bills, my living expenses, things like that. So those are all factored into it, plus the risk that I have toting it around. Somebody could steal it from me. I could make a mistake in grading, not see something, and it turns out that, I pay for an extra fine and the price is $2,000 wholesale for an extra fine. And it might only be a high end, very fine that's only worth $500. That happens. So all of this is figured in on what I offer people. And so in other words, you need to keep your mouth shut, when I'm dealing with another person. Um, so that's only courtesy. You know, if you're interested in buying that coin when I'm done with the transaction, I will probably be more than happy to offer it to you after that person leaves the table, and probably at a pretty decent fair price because it's a quick turnover. But again, you need to keep out of that deal. Just like I wouldn't want somebody getting involved when I'm dealing with you. So again, that's just common courtesy with this. I've had people follow people away from my table. I've had people um, in my shop tell me, go out to the parking lot with them. You got to remember, you don't have all those expenses, those risks. You're doing it as a hobby. I'm doing it as a livelihood. So I have to figure prices differently and keep that in mind too. All right. Um, while we're talking about negotiations, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. I make mistakes. I make errors when I'm grading coins, pricing coins. Sometimes, I might buy a coin and the price for a particular coin is X amount on the day I bought it. Prices drop, over time. They don't always go up. Um, I might have made a mistake in the grading when I bought it. It goes the other way too. Sometimes I undergrade stuff too, and people buy it and they make more money, when they, put it at the true higher grade. But if, if you see a coin, you think that it's overgraded, overpriced, just pass on it. You don't have to get into an argument and trying to put me down and say, "Oh, this coin's clean. You don't have it cleaned, and you haven't discounted it for. You haven't taken that into account. And you're charging too much for that." Or, this coin you've got it graded a very fine. I don't think it's only a very good. Just pass. Don't get into confrontation. I guarantee you're not going to win most of the time. Now, if I make an error, and you might say, "This is how I would handle it." Are you sure about the grade on this coin? And I might take a look at it and say, "Hey, you're right. I made a boo boo on that. My eyes must have been blurry when I looked at that." That's okay, you know. But I say, yeah. But if I say yes, I think that's what the coin grades. Just say, okay, thank you, and just pass. That's all it takes. There's other coins out there. There's other deals out there. Um, But that's another thing that I would advise, not to do when you get into a show. This hobby is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be confrontational, angry, arguments, things like that. So make it fun. Try to avoid situations that's going to make it unfun. All right. Now, this is a few little things I'm going to, little tips I'm going to give for the dealers. You need to be patient too. Yes, I know sometimes you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off at these shows. I mean, I do it too. In my mind, I tend to have a one-track mind, and if you interrupt my track, I tend to sometimes I get a little bit short. And I try very hard not to do that. But, and sometimes my wife has to tell me, patience. That's one of her phrases to me. And, sometimes it backs me up, makes me think. So, you know, try to be patient with customers too. They're not all there to spend, $10,000 with you. There's some of them that are there to spend 200, and that 200 is just as precious to them as 10,000 is to other people. So be patient with them, and try to be helpful. Be polite. Um, we again, and that's part of trying to do things in a condensed period of time. Trying to do the most deals is sometimes we can be kind of short, with people. Um, Thank them for their business. You know, ask them if you can help them. When they come up to your table, don't be involved with your iPhone or trying to feed your face or do some shuffle paperwork around or talk to your table mate there. You know, be polite. Ask if you can help. Um, Especially to the young people. If you get somebody under 30 years old at your table that's interested in coin, please take the time to spend some time with them. Try to nurture that interest in our wonderful hobby. Um, we don't have enough of those young people in this, and we sure don't want to alienate them at a young age. We want to, nurture that feeling and help them grow in this hobby. Um, I was fortunate I had some people that helped me when I was a young man, and it fostered my love for this hobby. And and I'm thankful every day that they took the time to do that. Um, so that's just some few little tips that I would tell to my dealer brethren out there. Um, But that's it. I mean, again, common courtesy goes a long way. And just common sense is a lot of it too. But again, don't be afraid to test the waters, at these shows. They're a lot of fun. You'll learn things. You'll see things, up close that you didn't think that you would ever see, maybe. You may see some things that you didn't even think about. You may find a series of coins like ancient coins that you fall in love with. That people ask me what I collect. That's what I collect. And it was just because I was exposed to them that I learned about them or to have developed the desire to learn for them and develop the love to want to collect and preserve that part of our history. Um, so anyways, that's it for this time. I hope that you found it interesting. Um, if you did, please give it the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you do subscribe. I will be coming, with more about, I'm going to try to do these little talks in 20 to 25 minutes at a time. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I know I've got other, parts to it that you may not are interested in, but I promise you I'm going to be doing more of these numismatic subjects and also getting some metal detecting videos for the ones of you that enjoy that. But until next time, y'all keep searching, and